Welcome to episode 7, Buckeye Bar Guys here on the Buckeye Bar Talk Network. I'm Mike.
I'm John.
Big show tonight. Buckeyes are back. Hell yeah, baby. So we talked about this a little bit on the emergency pod the other night. We're gonna get a little bit more into it. Tonight's gonna be more of a kind of discussing the protocols more in depth of what they have to go through, and then a couple other things. We're gonna skip over the final part of the Super League tonight, just because I think the protocol stuff, a lot of it, there's a lot of information in there. So,
Sure.
How you doing tonight, John?
I'm good, Mike. Just like we talked about the other day, just like what you said now, the Buckeyes are back, so that's a great thing. I'm looking forward to that. It's Friday, so we're going into the weekend. It's been cool, but it's been a pretty actually nice week. I mean, it's not hot, so that's always a nice thing. We get some cool weather. So I'm enjoying the weather. Gonna fire up the smoker tomorrow, make some food, and it's good days.
Yeah. It has been a cooler week this week. It's actually kind of felt like fall some, so.
I know. Well, that's what I was thinking at first when we went into the week is, man, this feels like football and Ohio State's not playing.
Yeah, I know. All right, before we get in tonight, just wanted to, go over just a couple things. Don't break your phone or your computer, but you got to crush that subscribe button on YouTube and, make sure you're subscribing to our videos and get the all notifications and like these videos and give us comments on them. Same thing with the podcast networks. Added 2 new podcast networks this week, radio.com, which is the CBS Sports affiliate. We're on there, and we're on Google Podcasts now, so add those to the Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and a few others. And so just make sure you're subscribing to our stuff and checking out our social media pages, at Buckeye Bar Talk on both Twitter and Instagram, Buckeye Bar Talk Facebook page, and Buckeye Bar Talk community group, which is our group on Facebook.
You can hear us and find us anywhere.
Yeah, cool thing about the group, you join up, they let you actually, you make your own post. Yeah, you can, it's kind of a different way than just commenting on some of our posts. You can actually, throw up your own stuff up there, whatever funny memes you want to give us. We love memes and GIFs and everything else. So.
Just keep it clean.
Yeah, we got quite a few new Nebraska followers this week. We are our new best friends in the Ohio State community, the Nebraska fans. So.
I love those guys. Go Big Red.
So if any Nebraska fan is gonna watch us, I know we have a contingent now as Twitter followers. We enjoyed everything you guys helped get this ball rolling, and I'm glad for both of our state passions for college football that Big Ten's back.
Yeah. With that being said, do you want Nebraska on or off the schedule this first year?
I have a feeling they're going to be on the schedule. I saw this funny thing the other day when Nebraska fans were like, what our schedule's going to look like. It's going to be, we're going to have to play Ohio State to start off the year, and then 2019 Buckeyes.
I think it's 2014 Buckeyes.
I saw the 85 Bears on there.
Yeah,
so.
it was pretty funny.
So I'm sure they're going to still be on it. I actually have this weird feeling we're going to be, I think this year was Columbus. I have this weird feeling that it's going to be the 24th. It's going to be the opener on Big Noon on Saturday.
I'd be good with that. That'd be fun.
So don't get upset, Nebraska fans. It's not personal. It's only business. But we do have to beat you guys by a lot.
Is there any team you don't want to see that opening weekend? Just because the reason I ask that is, from what I've seen so far in the games, defense looks like it's just a little bit behind. I don't think they're letting kids hit in practice, or something's not. I don't know if they're just not as many practices, or they're really restrictive on the tackling, but it just seems like tackling's really far behind the offense right now in a lot of these games. Is there anybody you don't want to see on the 24th?
It's always kind of that way. Defense is usually always a little bit behind offense. In most years, unless you have just a star-studded defense coming back and your offense is just really green, it was always going to be the case for that this year. But normally you get a bumper game in there. You get the Bowling Greens of the world.
Right. You usually get that first game to kind of get your feet wet.
I don't want to start off against probably Penn State. I would like to be a little bit more seasoned. But at the end of the day, I mean, honestly, none of them really matter. I think Penn State, Michigan, Nebraska, everybody's going to have the same issues as us. They're not. They're getting so involved so late into this thing that you just got to assume that at the end of the day, talent is going to kind of win over. So, especially those early games.
So you're not scared of anyone? We're just going to kill every team we play?
I'm not scared. I think some of the. I think if we played Penn State opening weekend, it's probably going to be a little closer than a bludgeoning.
Now, if you think we play Penn State 4 weeks into the season, you think it's more of a bludgeoning then?
It kind of depends. Is Micah coming back?
Doors open.
I saw there's stuff that NCAA's, I heard, is considering that anybody now that they're going to let back in, even if you signed with an agent. Which I won't lie, I think that's the right thing to do.
Shouldn't they do that? Yeah. I mean, if you said you're not going to be allowed to play, and then you change your mind, like, shouldn't the players have the opportunity to come back then?
Yeah.
They should be allowed to play.
Yeah, so, but I'm not really...
If I can say Shaun Wade and Wyatt Davis can come back, I got to say Micah Parsons and Rondale Moore should be
back. I want to see them both back. I want to see Micah back. I mean, honestly...
I don't want any excuses if we get in the playoffs. I want the best from everybody.
Even if Nico decides to come back up in Michigan, I mean, if that's if they're going to open up the door and say that it's okay, then it's still the player's choice. If the player decides, no, I still want to opt out, then that's our choice too. Good luck with them.
I've heard different things about Nico. Like I did hear that he was looking to come back. I read that, and then I read that the Michigan guys weren't making any noise or consideration about opting back in at all. So I'm not sure what's going on with those guys, but like I said, I've heard conflicting things about Michigan, but I for sure heard James Franklin said about Micah Parsons that the door is open for him. I heard Rondale Moore and what's his name escapes me, the Minnesota receiver.
Oh, yeah, I saw him. Yeah, I saw it a bunch on Twitter this morning. But
I heard they both wanted to come back in. Even the Minnesota receiver is back enrolled as a full-time student.
Yeah, I think hopefully that's true. Any door open up from the NCAA point of view.
Everybody deserves to play.
I mean, this is a weird year if you want to make any, honestly, in my opinion, until they accept their first dime. I mean, they should be given a couple weeks. I think the NBA, don't they give them a couple weeks back in that they should? I think they give them up to the draft.
And almost. Just with the nature of what happened, I mean, I don't think that they should have to have everything paid back in full like tomorrow. Because just the nature of what happened, the special circumstances, I think those kids, they should be allowed to play and be able, pay that back when they're able to. I don't think that should even be held against them.
Yeah. All right, so kind of since we're talking about opting back in, so when we did the emergency pod the other night, we did talk about Wyatt's back, and now we have found out that Shaun Wade is also back, so good news just keeps on getting better right now for us.
Right.
I saw a couple national writers, when Shaun Wade made his announcement, it's like, well, Ohio State is going back to my favorite to win the national title. So I know the AP polls were not going to be included this week because to let everything kind of settle, they would kind of want to see a schedule. But it sounds like that the Big Ten is going to be eligible starting next week, the next poll after this coming poll. So I have a feeling Ohio State's going to go from 2 to out to back in the top 5. I don't think they'll be 2 again. I think they'll be Alabama will probably keep 2 going into their game.
It all depends what they look like too, though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know who Oklahoma's going to be playing the fall. I know they're off this week. I don't know who they're going to be playing the following week, but so that was 2 and 3. I think the Buckeyes will be right back up there. I mean,
they'll be top 5.
If you felt that they were the number 2 team in the country and should have been or close to being number 1 team in the country, then I don't know what's changed.
I don't know what would, like you said, what has changed that you would think that they're not, because they got all the pieces back. So why would you think that they're still not number 2? And I mean, why would you how do I want to word this? If they're getting in the playoff, or you're assuming that they're going to be eligible for the playoff, why, what would affect your decision on where they're ranked. I think they should go, that they would go right back to being number 2. Now, with that being said, Alabama, they might, I think they have a couple big games before Ohio State even kicks off. So if Alabama's waxing everybody they play, then they might say Alabama's better than what we thought we're keeping them at number 2. And that's understandable.
I could see the Buckeyes move back to 2 or 3 to start the poll off when they are eligible in 2 weeks to come back into the poll. But then by the time they kick off on the 24th, they could be the 6th team in the country. I mean, they're at that point. Some of these other teams have actually had physical games
against good teams,
but they're going to be in the top 10 still. And so, I mean, it is now you're back. I mean, we talked about the other night that we're going to get in the protocols here in a minute. There's just not a lot of room for a lot of error.
No, they left themselves zero room for any mishaps. So that's a shame, but it's something that can be done. So I'm not going to let that bother me too much. And going back to kind of what you said, if Ohio State kicks off the season and they're ranked 8th because so many teams have played in front of them, I don't think they'll be out of the top 5 personally because, again, what has changed? Why would they be out of the top 5 now? But if they are, I'm not going to sweat that.
No,
By the end of the day, it's all going to right itself.
I mean, Ohio State 9-0, and honestly, I heard a couple of people say today that they even think at 8-1 they're fine. That
you got to make the games count.
They got to be in the championship though, so that one loss probably can't beat the Penn State. If they slip up, maybe if I mean, just I'll throw love out to the Nebraskas of the world. If they would beat them somehow, that as long as the game was not a bad game. I mean, we saw how bad games can kill you.
I mean, it's another year with Scott Frost. What have they lost on offense?
Yeah.
No,
they Martinez back.
Was Spielman there last year?
Yeah.
Is he gone now?
I think it seems like he's been there 10 years.
I know, right?
So
he's ageless.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, anything's possible in football. I've seen Ohio State get stomped by Purdue and Iowa over the last couple of years, so I'm not going to say it's not possible. I don't think it's probable, but anything can happen.
Yeah. All right, so just to kind of get into something like we said, they've left no room for error. So the protocols came out. These are definitely the strictest protocols of any conference right now. There's some movement possibly with the Pac-12. I'm assuming the Pac-12 will have similar protocols if they do play. But so just to knock off the first couple of things on the list. So they're going to do daily rapid testing, which basically means this antigen test. They are going to give every player, every coach, every member of the support staff is going to have to take it every day.
Right.
And if you test positive for COVID-19, you are immediately removed, and you have to take the second test, the more conclusive test, the PCR test. And that will be the confirmation test. If that comes back positive, you have COVID-19 and you are now sitting out for the next 21 days.
So there's no rubber match of test. You don't have to take a third test. If you come back negative on that second test, you're back in.
The way I understand it, if the PCR test comes back, that is, even though the antigen tests have gotten a little bit better, that's the more accurate thing.
Right.
I mean, some of these, the antigen tests, if they, in some instances, they've come back positive, and then in PCR tests have showed it to be negative, and then so they've allowed whoever tested positive to go back with their normal daily life.
Right.
That actually happened here a couple months ago in Ohio, just with the governor and the president. They had a meeting. The governor actually came back positive on an antigen test, and then on
Mike.
PCR test came back negative. So
Mr. DeWine.
Yeah. So if the positive test needs to be confirmed, and that's the 21 days. The reason why it's 21 days, that gives you the 14 days plus an extra 7, so they can do all the proper heart testing and cardiac testing. Basically, what they are doing on the cardiac testing, all positive athletes will have to undergo a comprehensive cardiac testing to include labs and biomarkers, ECGs, echocardiograms, and a cardiac MRI. And then after that, they will have to meet with each team's cardiologist that's designated to that team, and they will then make the final approval to clear them for return to play, but it is a minimum of 21 days, and that's what they said, a minimum. So, I mean, if you actually, if there's any concerns that the cardiologist finds, it actually could be more than 21 games, or 21 days.
If I understand correctly, and I was kind of, I was working, I had stuff going on in the background, so I thought President Johnson actually said that if there's any, like, heart issues, you're done for the year.
And that might be too.
I thought that's what I heard, but like I said, I was kind of moving around, so I could be wrong. I should have rewatched it, but I thought that's what I heard.
I was just taking this from the Big Ten press release, and they said minimum, so I'm taking that to assume that it could be any more than 21 if those are there. But that would be the case. I don't know. I don't know if that's a league-wide thing or if that's a school thing, and that might be this Ohio State's decision that that's they're in their right at that point. So basically, then what they got. So decisions, the halt practices and competitions, then will be based on basically a rolling average of 7 days. So every 7 days, and your team positivity rate, which that's kind of self-explanatory. That's how many players test positive on your team. If it's between 0 and 2%, you're considered green. 2 to 5%, you're considered orange, and then 5% or greater, you're considered red. The population positivity rate, I was a little confused on. It doesn't really explain what that means in the Big Ten thing. I don't know if that means if that's also included your city, if that includes your campus, if that includes what your personal, like if I played, if me catching it, what do I do? What could be what I do to the whole population as a whole?
I feel like it means campus.
Yeah. So
I could be wrong, but I just taking it, into context, I feel like that means what's going on the campus.
Yeah. So that for green, that's 0 to 3.5%. That's orange, 3.5% to 7.5%, and then red is 7.5% or greater.
In which Ohio State's currently in a green. I think she said they were at like a 2.2% or something.
Yeah. So, yeah. So basically, there are decisions to alter it. If your team and your population are both green, then you're good to go, and you're also good to go if it's your team's green, the population's orange. There's a proceed with caution thrown in, which they might have to alter some things with the schedules. If you're orange and orange, or if you're orange and red. So basically, if you are in that middle range, but your population is over, you're still allowed to play.
Yeah.
Where it gets into any time your team hits red, though, that's a halt to practice, or if it's red, so
you're done for 7 days.
And it doesn't matter if anything else is below,
You're done for 7 days.
So that's kind of what your thoughts are on all this stuff. At least
it's strict. It's very steep. It's not a ton of room for error if you think about how small those percentages are to 85 guys. I don't remember who it was. I watched someone, it might have actually been Byrne from Letterman Row, was like, NFL guys can play with 53 players. Why can't college play with 53 players? But it's about safety. So that's all. You're missing a lot for not too many positive tests. So it's kind of scary when you think about it. I know Justin Fields said that it's a small sacrifice to kind of put yourself in that bubble to play for a national title. But then I also think about, at the same token, Mike, that, and when I say it and when I think about it, college was a long time ago for me, but it also feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And I could say all I want that, hey, I'm not going to go out with my buddies and, go have a good time, not go to the bar. And then when my buddies ask me to go to the bar, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to the bar tonight. So, that's, for someone in the early 20s, that's not so much that it's not a lot of sacrifice when you really think about the big picture, but sometimes people don't always think about the big picture. They think about having fun with their friends.
Now, where I think some of that's coming into play too is the universities have actually cracked down a lot on it. I don't think there's a lot of bars open around these universities.
I don't know.
I know there can't be house parties, and they've been really strict with that. I've actually suspended a few kids.
Yeah, I know those bars around Columbus. that's those guys' livelihood. So
Yeah.
that's probably like the hardest decision for them to make is they're probably like, well, I need to close the bar so no players come in. But then at the same time, they need to make their money. So
Yeah.
how weird would that be though on a Saturday in Columbus when you don't get the bars to go to?
Yeah.
You know, that's not even the same. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be, and you're no fans allowed in.
I think a
stadiums?
couple days. We kind of talked about this the other night. I think that where some of the strictness is coming from, and the no fans thing. I mean, we kind of said it kind of seems like a poison pill that then become a poison pill. I think it's probably a compromise that
Yeah.
the Ohio States of the world wanted to play. Probably the Rutgers of the world been like, well, we want more guarantees, and unfortunately, we can joke around all this stuff that these schools they shouldn't be able to dictate what they want to dictate to Ohio State, and I agree on part of that when it comes to saying that they shouldn't be allowed to hold Ohio State out from playing. But if they're going to play and everybody's going to agree who playing, then compromise is part of life, and they threw some compromises in there.
No way does Rutgers get the same amount of votes as Ohio State. You're being politically correct right now. In no universe we live in should Rutgers hold as much weight as Ohio State when it comes to deciding about a football season. In no way should anybody say, I get a share of your television revenue if you're not playing.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was just Rutgers.
I'm happy. I'm happy they decided to have a season.
I'm sure that was part Michigan too, and Michigan State that they had to throw in there.
They don't get a say either. No, I know those are big boys you're talking about there. That Michigan, they still hold a lot of weight out there.
Well, I think they hold a lot of weight for some of those.
And I think Ryan Day's gonna take them to the woodshed because of their actions.
When Gene made his joke the other night about that, they're. It's going to be kind of a look test for the committee. I think that was like...
I don't know if he was joking.
I don't think he was joking either, but that's kind of just like,
That's what's on the line, because at the end of the day, you're going to have people who say that Ohio State played, 20, 30% less games than your Alabamas, your SEC teams. When they get there at the end of the day, they're going to say all's good and well, and then your Paul Feinbaums, your Heather Diniches, those guys are going to say, well, they didn't play as many games because they're going to try to push for a second SEC team to get on or get into it on ESPN. They are.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff's going to come up. So yeah, I don't think Gene was joking at all. I think he realizes that they got to take these teams to the woodshed.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, Feinbaum will definitely be on there. I think Ohio State going 9-0, I think
if they go 9-0,
I
don't think they have much of an argument.
I think the rest of ESPN will then kind of be falling in line. That
last
year they were pretty gung ho that Ohio State needs to be in the playoffs.
Well, and
that's money for them.
That's 13-0 though. But I don't think 9-0 Ohio State. I don't think they really have an argument anyways. I don't think they have to kick the crap out of everybody, but it helps.
And I kind of have a feeling if they do whoop on some teams and they go 9-0 that. There's going to be a lot of people at ESPN that are, especially if there really are memos that come down and be like, here's the talking point. I have a feeling Ohio State's going to get pushed this year because they need money badly. I don't know if a lot of people have realized how bad the TV networks are doing because of COVID-19, but they've gotten crushed. They are actually, and there's a lot of other things besides just sports, but so much of the big networks, their live coverage is dedicated. They have so many hours dedicated the week to sports. In ESPN, it is all sports, and and then not only that, you have major studios that own these channels that all their movies were shut down all year. So Disney, NBC, Comcast owns them, Viacom owns CBS, so all these networks are like, yeah, we need something back. We need revenue. So.
No, I agree. In Ohio State, that's a moneymaker, so they want them there. They don't want to argue, and that's why a lot of them, Paul Feinbaum, I know what I'm saying, that he's going to be the one, like, there needs to be two, but he actually said the other day that if there's a 9-0 Big Ten team, they're getting in the playoffs.
Yeah, and Desmond's the only one that's going to argue against Ohio State.
And he went to, I get it, Michigan, Ohio State. He went to a Big Ten school, though, but he's going to be, you're exactly right. He's going to be out front saying that they only played 9 games. He'll probably say that they went against the commissioner and they need to get their asses booted out of the league.
Yeah. So testing, to get back to the testing, so testing begins September 30th officially. Now, unofficially, the schools, I think, once they get these in hand, the antigen test, I have a feeling that these are going to be done.
They got to start quicker.
And I think schools like Ohio State will be, once they get them in place, they're going to begin right away because you have to start seeing where you're at because...
So, speculative, and I could be completely off base with this, but do you think a school like Ohio State, I mean, are they already testing kids? Are they encouraging the kids to go elsewhere already to get tested?
They're probably already.
What do you think?
I mean, they were already.
Because you need to know before the 30th, because you don't want someone not being able to have those first 3 weeks to practice. Because, I mean, you can't come back till what, the 20th?
Yeah. I think that they probably already have started the testing.
I think they want to know right now. They got to get these kids healthy.
Yeah, they probably have already begun. Obviously, we don't know. I haven't really seen anything. But IU's coach, Indiana, he said the other day that they're going to start doing the testing like within a couple days. So,
yeah, and
I
have
think,
to.
I think if Indiana's doing it, Ohio State most likely is doing it. So
you can't have any surprises come September 30th. So
yeah.
you have to do it as soon as possible. So because you can't lose that many kids for 3 weeks.
No, I didn't have this actually on our notes, but I literally just thought of this. So okay. And this is actually something I would like to get more information on. I don't think it's been out there, and I think the committee can be the only ones to answer it. So all these conferences kind of have different protocols and stuff. Okay, and so I'll do a scenario. Justin Fields comes down, knock on wood, COVID-19,
Sure.
Right before the Big Ten title. So we're 8-0. He gets it, and I think he would still be in that 21-day window because I think it's New Year's Day, the playoff, because...
Yeah, it is.
So how does the committee take... Ohio State still wins the Big Ten championship.
That's scary to think about, a playoff without him, though.
But does the committee say, well, no, our standards are different? Does the Big Ten school at that point say, well, our standards is only for the Big Ten Conference. We go by the committee standards for the playoff.
I mean, I feel like that's a discussion and a fight for when it happens. That's a bridge to cross when it happens. But
I think the committee. I think the committee would have to come out soon and say something. I mean, you have now different testing. You have different procedures in all these conferences.
Right.
So.
I mean, are they going to push back the playoffs a couple weeks?
I don't know, but I mean, I would say that.
And they said they have strict dates for the playoffs. I'm not calling like baloney on that. I'm not saying that it's not true because I'm sure they do want those strict dates for the playoffs. But in COVID-19 2020, you have to have something built in to protect yourselves because if a whole team, they're not going to just kick out a team and say, okay, 5th place comes in now. Like you have to, and you're not going to make a team forfeit because, they have to shut down for a week or so.
I just think the committee they probably need to come up with standards of their own. And like,
right.
Your standards that you do in your individual conferences are fine, but if you catch it, say, before your championship, well, under our policy, you're not required to sit out 21 days.
I'm sure they do have some sort of doomsday scenario worked out that they know about ahead of time, but they're probably just like, this is worst case scenario, so we're not even saying this until it happens.
Yeah.
So that would be my guess on that one.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I would like to somebody... some media guys maybe start reaching out to some people.
But I don't think Justin Fields, though, I don't think Ohio State can say, well, we're in the playoffs, so it's, X amount of days away, Justin's going to play in that. I think with the agreement, they still have to follow that. Justin's got to be shut down for 21 days.
Yeah. I would like to get some clarification because...
That's a big question.
Yeah.
You only got 8 weeks or 9 weeks, that's a serious thing. That's a big question. So yeah, that's something that definitely I would like to see some clarity come out within the next couple days or weeks.
Yeah. Any additional thoughts on the testing protocols?
No, I mean, like I said, it's a steep price. And what things I'm scared about, not that I'm scared because, I mean, if it happens, it happens. But, like Shaun Wade, game 8 or 7, he comes down with it. Does he just opt out at that point?
Yeah.
You just sit on the sidelines and you're like, well, let's see, if I get cleared to play in a playoff if we make it. like I think that's going to be interesting to see what kind of decisions are made at that point. Like, does a team that realistically can't take one loss and get in, that they don't have that brand to them, someone that I throw out like an SEC team, like Mississippi State or something, that maybe they're really good, but they lose one game, so they don't got, that going for them that they're going to get in. Do they lose a bunch of players then? Do a bunch of guys just start walking?
Yeah, I could see that. I think what makes me the most nervous with all these protocols, it's not so much players getting it, at least from Ohio State's point of view. I'm more scared about too many players getting it because that's a lost game. And I'm really scared about somebody on another team getting it, too many players getting it, because that's a lost game. And the Big Ten kind of didn't do any favors for themselves not building in extra dates. Well, now on the outside of Justin, I feel really good about the depth. And Coach Day actually said yesterday that they're going to have to play with depth. They know, or I think you said it on Wednesday. They know that they're going to have to play with depth this year to start with. And I think he's coming in with that mindset that pretty much everybody's going to be playing, and that's there. I mean, if you deserve to be playing, you're probably going to play, and because
you and I have always felt that should be the case, though.
Yeah, so I really think that it'll be the case though for this year. So outside the quarterback, but even that,
you say that though until you get in a game, and then you can't afford to be subbing people that need to be playing all the time.
Yeah, it's true, but hopefully you get enough playing time that...
I just say hopefully Ohio State goes up 4 scores right away and they can start getting some guys some reps.
Yeah, I definitely... Well, on some of these teams, they're going to get reps.
Pedal to the metal. As soon as kickoff goes, you just try to bury that team in front of you so you can get some other guys in there.
Yeah.
Play aggressive, play fast.
Yeah. All right, so last week we had our first round of Power 5 games, really, so that came in... kind of just my first thoughts. A lot of them were sloppy.
Very
normal,
sloppy
and I think a lot of there's no preseason in college. A lot of times you get sloppy football for the first week, possibly the first 2 weeks. They seemed a little bit more sloppy than normal. It's understandable. A lot of these kids, their practice schedules have been a lot different than they were used to because of everything. A couple things I saw. Notre Dame definitely looked sloppy, but they won. Florida State looked really sloppy and they lost.
Florida State did not look good at all.
And then the Big 12 had 3 losses
to bad teams.
So,
but Kansas isn't a good team.
No, Kansas. Maybe that team.
I can excuse that a little bit, but
I was expecting.
You got Kansas State, and what was the other one?
Iowa State.
Iowa State.
I know Louisiana is. The Raging Cajuns, man,
they're good enough to beat Iowa State.
Yeah. So I was kind of expecting more from Iowa State.
Not a lot of fight out of the Big 12.
But then on the other, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Texas, they all looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So I watched those games too. Just kind of your first weeks of thoughts.
Well, Wake Forest, they look completely overmatched against Clemson. So and I think we all expected that to happen. Clemson's so much better than the rest of the ACC. Now, last week, I hope I didn't put my foot in my mouth, because I said I didn't say Clemson had an expiration date. I said Florida State eventually would be good again, but whatever the hell that was this past Saturday, it was... Who was it? The Georgia Tech kid that kept missing the field goals out? It kept getting them blocked, right?
Yeah.
Extra points and field goals. How did you lose? How did they lose that game? You're Florida State. Why can't you get back to where you were?
I saw this funny dig from a Florida fan Florida media member or Florida fan, I'm not sure, on Twitter. So it was being retweeted a bunch. Was because I don't know if anybody saw, it was kind of big news in the college football world that morning, but the swamp actually caught on fire. There was a dumpster fire on the 3rd level, and it was huge plumes of smoke were coming out of it, and so everybody was kind of making jokes, and 2020, here we go, another 2020 thing. But then I saw this guy, retweeted a bunch of the other night. He was like, the swamp caught on fire, and Florida's still not the biggest disaster in the state of Florida today.
Yeah, I know. So the whole expiration date about Clemson, I said they didn't have one, and I did not say it was going to be this year that those teams were going to turn around. Eventually, they'll turn around. Clemson, Clemson looks really good now.
Yeah, and UNC had a good second half. They were a little sloppy in the first half, but I mean,
It's game one.
yeah, Mac.
That happens to everybody. It's game one.
I like the kids that Max recruited down there. So
I mean, Clemson's corners and safeties got burned on a couple throws that the receivers didn't pull in. Now, do I think that's something that's going to happen all year? Possibly, but I wouldn't bet on it. I would not bet on a Brent Venables defense not getting that shirt up.
yeah, I mean, and it's hard this week. So now getting into kind of this week coming up. I mean, the games this week are crap. So, like,
Why
Clemson's-
in this year? Go ahead. Talk about the game.
We'll
Sorry.
talk about Clemson to start with, just because we're talking about them. I mean, they're playing Citadel, so like I can't judge how are their corners any better
Right.
this week.
Well, how can someone honestly say that Ohio State played, 20, 30% less than Clemson, so they shouldn't be allowed in the playoff? And then in this shortened year, in COVID-19 2020, Clemson's still allowed to play the Citadel. Like, what a joke.
Yeah,
They should not have even been allowed to schedule that game.
Yeah,
if you're allowed one out of conference game, it cannot be the Citadel. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't now you can't even judge Clemson off of this week. So
you can play the Citadel, but then you have no room to say Ohio State shouldn't get it because they played a less games. Because that doesn't count as a game in my book.
You basically just played 10 games.
Right. That's not a game.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Clemson doesn't need to even have their starters in probably after 3 series of that game.
Yeah. They probably don't even need to.
They don't need. Yeah, right. That I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but I would start that DJ kid, the quarterback. That guy could throw all over the field. I'm sure he could beat the Citadel.
Yeah. Georgia Tech's playing UCF this week, so it'll be interesting to see.
I look for UCF to win that game. How Georgia Tech played last week, I think UCF will win that game pretty easily.
Well, in UCF, I saw somebody argue. I think it was Booger arguing last week how about UCF is actually the worst team in the state of Florida. They would be better than Florida State then.
No, they would. UCF would beat Florida State.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I mean, they got a new quarterback. I'm sure that you lose stuff after years. I mean, you had a solid team for 2 years. I'm sure you've lost some pieces, and it's always hard for teams like that to sustain it. But I don't know. I mean, Florida State looked bad.
Yeah.
Miami didn't look great.
No, they actually have the best game on the schedule this week. They're playing Louisville, so I think it's like 14 and 18 or 16 or 18.
I mean, we'll see how good Louisville actually is.
Yeah. That's a 7:30. That's the big primetime game on ESPN on Saturday night.
Well, at least I'll be smoking tomorrow, so if I miss some games, I'm not really going to be too upset about it.
Smoking meat for anybody that didn't catch the beginning.
Yes.
He's gonna have to smoke her out. So.
Yeah. Smoked brisket, not meth.
Yeah. Then Notre Dame is playing Southern Florida, so USF. Notre Dame, I mean, they should win that game pretty easily, but I mean, I don't know how good Southern Florida is this year. Some years they have better teams than
Yeah,
others,
I mean, some
so.
years they're okay. I don't think they're going to have a team that's good enough to beat Notre Dame, though.
Yeah.
Probably not even play a good game with them. It'll
Yeah.
probably be ugly.
Yeah. Pitt's playing Syracuse, so that one could be interesting. Then on the Big 12 straight...
Man, all those teams are loving the Big 10 and Pac-12 not being in the AP right now. Do you see how high some of those teams are rated?
That's a joke, too.
No business. It should only be like a top 15 right now. Like, those teams have no business having a number next to their name.
Yeah, and then, just to get off on a little tangent, I did see some Clemson and Bama fans and some of the SEC fans saying how Ohio State doesn't deserve to, be even in because they're not playing a full season. And then
it is a full season.
And then they said, but I saw one of them make an excuse why the Raging Cajuns deserve. They beat a top 25 team.
I mean, Alabama and Clemson aren't playing a full season. They're not even playing the same number of games. Isn't Clemson playing 11 and Alabama's playing 10?
Yeah, and Clemson's playing Citadel.
And they're playing the Citadel. Like,
at least Alabama's playing the whole SEC slate.
Yeah, I know. I wonder, because they're not going to have their easy games. So I wonder how many, if they'll lose any games this year, and how many.
I mean, I think outside of Clemson and probably Ohio State or Penn State, in my opinion, I don't know if anybody's going to go undefeated in the SEC.
No, I don't think so, and I don't think. I don't think the Big 12.
Well, Oklahoma and Texas, one of them are losing one, and
they're capable.
And the other one always seems like they're going to lose the one.
Right, I know. They're always good to lose one. I don't trust. I love Tom Herman. when he was, on the sidelines for Ohio State or up in the booth, helped us with that national title. He was a great offensive coordinator. Since that guy's gone to Texas, I don't trust him as a head coach though. He's always good for a loss.
Yeah.
The bad one, usually he takes one on the chin.
Now we got only 2 Big 12 games, and that ended up now within the last couple hours being 1 Big 12 game. So Oklahoma State is playing Tulsa. Baylor was supposed to play Houston, which that was that was made last week, that game.
So I mean, at least it wasn't like an actual game that Baylor lost. It was just something that they had added to their schedule.
And no positive tests on either team. It's just from contact tracing, which that's the one thing the rapid testing will help with the Big Ten.
Yes.
And I saw Adam Rittenberg tweet out a little bit ago that he's like, well, more of these conferences probably need to start getting on to the whole, rapid testing thing, or there's going to be a lot more game postponements coming.
And then it's just, it's going to end up the Big Ten champion is just going to be the national champion then. No, the Big Ten will start playing, and they'll have the technology to keep playing. Then everyone else will have to postpone, and then we'll be in the same boat we were in before, but it'll be the Big Ten trying to play, and then, then everyone else will have the power to cancel the season, and the playoffs will get pushed back.
The Big Ten, though, always Mr. Nice Guy, be like, oh yeah, we'll play with the later schedule. So they probably agree to that. Cincinnati,
finish out your year and declare yourself national champion.
Cincinnati, they're back finally. They're playing this week. So
Austin Peay?
Yeah.
Man, Austin Peay.
I've seen them on TV every week so far, so
they get to play.
Yeah.
They get full schedules.
The Fighting Fickles, I mean, Austin Peay's 0-2, so I'm assuming the Fighting Fickles are going to
going 0-3.
They're going to lay the hammer down on them. And then...
They're ranked 13th, aren't they?
Yeah.
Is that the highest Cincinnati's ever preseason been ranked?
Probably. And then the big news, the SEC is at least back next week, so at least next week. And hopefully now the ACC and the Big 12 will start getting to some better games, so, we'll start seeing at least some decent football, hopefully, starting next week, leading us into...
we still got a month.
The Big Ten play.
More than a month before we're going to see the Buckeyes, so I got to see some good games.
Yeah. Which we're going to get into the minute with the NFL. I mean, we at least saw some decent NFL games and some decent Buckeye performances. But SEC's back. It will be nice to at least, like I said, I like the fact that they're not playing any of their chicken crap, their little, crap that they played.
The game before the last game.
And I've always said, and I'm sure some Buckeye fans don't like it, I do feel they're the best top to bottom conference. I would argue that the SEC West is the best division. I think the Big Ten East gives them a run for their money.
Yeah, I can get behind that. But
I think they have better lower level teams than Rutgers and Maryland. So
I just year in year out, I think SEC West and Big Ten East are very comparable. The one thing though is year in year out, Ohio State's really the only team that I think truly is a national championship contender out of the Big Ten East, whereas Alabama might be year in, year out the only true national championship contender, but then you got LSU's and Auburn's that every couple years they pull a great team together that could contend for a national title.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So things like that are the difference for me. You don't have anyone the caliber of your Georgias over in the Big Ten West, even though I think the way Kirby Smart coaches a game, he's meant for Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin could beat them.
Well, I mean that's playing Wisconsin football.
Right, and I know nobody from Georgia wants to hear that. They probably look at their recruiting classes and think that there's no way Wisconsin could even take the field with them. Wisconsin could beat Georgia.
Yeah, I've seen Georgia or Wisconsin beat SEC teams because people think you're never gonna you gotta out athletic Wisconsin.
Right.
You're not gonna beat Wisconsin. Ohio State has strong guys on both.
But you don't play that game with Wisconsin.
They don't go play smash mouth football with Wisconsin.
You don't line up and just try to beat the hell out of Wisconsin every play. Like, you got to beat them with speed. And Georgia, don't get me wrong, top to bottom, their roster can do it. They don't coach to do that.
Yeah, and that's what Georgia fans need to understand. Kirby Smart is, he's the what's holding you guys back.
But they got the guy from the Browns is now their offensive coordinator, right? what's his name?
What
That's who it is, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it was the Browns coach last year?
Yeah.
The offense. I don't know. I mean,
Is he there? Or
was Freddie considered the offensive coordinator and head coach?
Or did Freddie go there or go to the Giants? I thought his buddy was at the Giants.
Well, it's whoever the other coach was. It's not Freddie.
Okay. Oh, the actual. Oh, it's Munchkin or Munchkin. Right?
Yeah. Munkin.
Munchkin.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at the Browns' offense last year. I'm not too concerned about that, but
Yeah. So we did mention that NFL. So there's 50 Buckeyes on NFL rosters. I mean, you know, and I saw this funny tweet yesterday. Somebody, a Michigan fan, and this to me, this was my return to normalcy. That maybe 2020 started to become normal. I saw a Michigan fan tweet out that Michigan is the NFL factory, and Ohio State is just a Colts. Now, Michigan has 27 players currently on NFL rosters, and Ohio State has 50, which is second most only to Alabama, which I believe is a 53 or 56.
55, I think.
Okay, split the difference on that one.
Right.
But yeah, Alabama was number 1. Ohio State's number 2 at 50.
I'm biased. I've watched them week in, week out in their college careers. And usually I pay the most attention to them if the Browns aren't playing or when the Browns, aren't on. I pay the most attention to Ohio State guys. Can you argue at this point, though, from what we've seen the last couple of years, that any college, I don't care if Alabama has more players, anybody gets their players more ready for the NFL than Ohio State?
No,
I mean, look at what these guys do.
Maybe a couple, but I mean, some of these guys had some of these rookies had or 2-year players, 3-year players. I mean,
They're not. I mean, and guys that didn't even have big week ones. I mean, they have great games all the time. Like, I don't think Marshawn Lattimore is on our list. Marshawn Lattimore has been a Pro Bowler. He's been a Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. So to kind of start off the game we watched because the Browns, so they played the Ravens and were destroyed by the Ravens.
Oh, that sucked.
J.K. didn't have necessarily a lot of yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns. He went 7 for 22.
Yeah.
Malik Harrison had 4 tackles, all solos. So I mean, he had a pretty good game for out there. Just your thoughts on those guys? I mean,
I'm gonna say real quick. This is going away from the NFL. I'll get right back to it though, but I put myself through the punishment earlier of rewatching that Clemson game from last year because, I'm getting excited for Ohio State. I want to kind of, see where they left off and kind of give my opinion and what, I'm looking forward for them to improve. If J.K. Dobbins doesn't hurt his ankle, I mean, there's so many times that game's not a game, but if J.K. Dobbins doesn't hurt his ankle, there's no way. I mean, I saw a couple times in the second half, there was actually, third quarter, fourth quarter, I can't remember what it was. It's the Olave touchdown drive. Dobbins has like an off tackle or something that you could just tell like he didn't have the umph in his step. He wasn't able to make the cut, but he still ran for like 8 yards on a play that would have easily been a 25-yard gain. And then the very next play, he catches a little swing pass or something that, again, it would have been like a 20-yard gain. I think he got like 10 out of it, but you could tell he just he couldn't run on that ankle. If he's healthy in that second half, I mean, they killed.
No, I mean,
they just destroyed that team. That's so disappointing.
That arm tackle on the twisted his ankle. I mean, first of all, that stopped the touchdown, another touchdown.
Yeah, I know. He ends up at what, like the 7-yard line, 8-yard line? Yeah, inside the 10.
Yeah, so, I mean,
there's so many things you can blame. But honestly, if J.K. doesn't get hurt, Ohio State wins that game easily.
I mean, nothing else matters. Right. I mean, that's a laugher of a semifinal if J.K. stays healthy because they had no answer for him that night. Even when he was hurt, I mean, he was still running over them.
Right. I mean, Ohio State's offensive line, he's such a high level back. Their offensive line was, getting to the second level, and J.K. was just following right behind him. They had nothing to stop him. If he was healthy, that game's not even close. And then we're talking about a completely different title game. Anyways, though, Ravens killed the Browns. So J.K. looked good on his touchdowns. They weren't particularly far or anything like that, but he'll be a beast in the red zone.
Broke a couple tackles on both of them.
Guy keeps getting stronger. Yeah.
Chase Young, big game for him. I mean, rookie.
I think,
he's already started to scream defensive rookie of the year.
The crap that Chase Young got from people down the year, or at the very end of the season, because he didn't have any sacks in those last 3 games, to come out, get a sack, get the strip sack. I mean, he just shows he's still what he was. The guy's going to be amazing. Like you just said, defensive rookie of the year. I written all over him.
Yeah, and going off of Chase at the end of the year, I mean, I have more problems with some of the other
You had to step up.
and I'm hoping now that some of these guys step up because that's actually where my problem's at. Because I mean, I saw 3 guys that Chase was getting nailed by 3 different guys. So, I mean, he's getting double teamed and chipped at the.
Well, I saw there were so many times against Clemson that it was just like, you know, right there. Like if Trevor Lawrence holds the ball, which to his credit he didn't. He's a great quarterback. If he holds the ball for a half second longer, Chase has the strip sack.
Yeah. So, I mean, 1.5 sacks, 4 tackles, 2 of them were solos, and then a forced fumble. I mean, he had a monster of a game.
So good. He's going to be so good. For so many years, that guy's just going to be a beast.
And then, Dwayne, he went 17 for 31, threw a touchdown, had 178 yards. Not bad.
He's getting better. He didn't have any interceptions, so.
I mean, again, he looked good.
He won.
Yeah. And he actually, he's the one who gave the halftime speech because of, I don't know, everybody knows Ron Rivera's dealing with cancer, and then he had to get an IV at halftime, and so Dwayne gave the halftime speech. So I mean,
it's good to see that he's growing up to be a vocal leader. That was always something that was kind of criticized, at least at first, about him in that 2018 year, that he wasn't very loud with the team. So I'm glad he's growing into that.
Yeah. The Bosa brothers. So Joey had a big game. Nick not as much, but still, he still got a decent amount of tackles. Joey had a sack though, 2 tackles for loss, 5 tackles. They were all solo, and 3 QB hits.
Yeah, 5 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and the sack. Joey Bosa was a wrecking ball against Cincinnati. Nick Bosa had a good game. I know it wasn't.
It wasn't Joey's.
How could you can't? It's in no way if you can't replicate what Joey did is it a failure. That's an amazing stat line you just said right there.
Yeah, 6. And Nick had 6 tackles. 3 of them were solo.
So those last 3 people that you just said, is that right there enough of an endorsement to go play for Larry Johnson?
Yeah.
It's week in, week out.
Yeah, what I saw. There's the greatest infomercial in the world for recruiting for Ohio State is they should have, and I think they do this. They should have a loop in the Woody, just their athletes.
They have all the pro jerseys hanging up there.
Just all the NFL's plays that these guys are making. Cut them up and put them into a film.
There's so much that team does just to help itself with recruiting stuff like this. Shaun Wade and Wyatt coming back for the brotherhood, that just every day. Why wouldn't you want to play for Ohio State?
Yeah. Jerome Baker, man, talk about a great game.
Holy crap.
So he had a sack, 16 tackles, 12 solo, and a forced fumble.
What else can you say on top of that? That is a game.
Yeah.
16 tackles.
Yeah, and 12 of them solo.
Jerome Baker was always all over the field, but it's hard to tell if that stuff's going to translate to the NFL because sometimes you're just the fastest guy on the field in college, but then you go to the NFL and everybody's as fast as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's an incredible stat line.
Yeah, so phenomenal. Again, these guys just keep on. It's just highlight films you can put on for recruits.
That's why I say I don't think there's any question that Ohio State gets these guys. Mick Marotti gets these guys more ready for the NFL than any other college program.
Yeah. Paris Campbell, he went 6 for 71, and he had a rush for 9 yards. So good game. That was actually his best game as a pro so far.
Not
bad. Zeke he was rated as the top running back in the NFL. He went 22 for 96 with the touchdown, and receiving 3 for 31 with a touchdown.
I love Zeke. That's not a mystery. Obviously, Zeke was one of my favorite Buckeyes in years. So he's always going to put up big numbers. That guy's great. I feel like the NFL's sleeping a little bit on our boy in Cleveland, though, saying that Zeke's the number 1 running back in.
Well, it was rated, but then for at least last week was just rated numbers. But,
yeah. Good. What'd you say? 96 yards.
Yeah, 22 carries. And 100 yards are not necessarily a guarantee in the NFL like they are in college. So,
yeah, that's a good game. Especially you had 30 receiving yards on top.
31 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Same game, other team. Jordan Fuller, another big game for the rookie, his first game. He had 8 tackles, 5 of them were solos, and he had the game-winning tackle, and that was a great tackle.
So Jordan Fuller, and again, you and I watch these guys a lot more than the NFL scouts do.
Should be playing for the Browns.
Meaning Ohio State guys. You and I watch them a lot more than any team scout does, because they gotta look at a lot of different people. We're just watching the team we love. We saw a lot of Jordan Fuller.
Yeah.
Right? Did you ever think that Jordan Fuller would be a 6th round pick over all the years that we've watched?
No. Like, all right, and the bad defense from the year before, a lot of their...
He was like the bright spot.
A lot of their problems were, and teams actually talked about that, because they did that inverted safety where they would roll if they would roll Fuller down to take
that's when they went
the motion.
That's where they attacked.
They would go up top against the other safety. Well, and that was like one of Halfley's biggest changes from last year. He's just like, no, he's going to be our home run guy, and he kept.
Of course, there'd be the times that they came down and Pete Warder would go out to be the deep safety.
Yeah.
But they never got burned on that.
Yeah, they never did get burned on it. But, for the most of the times they kept, Fuller was up high. And what I saw on that tackle the other night, I watched that game, first of all, he got caught in traffic. I mean, I thought that guy was going to get a first down easily, and he got caught in traffic. He runs around traffic, and he has just that was the most perfect safety tackle. You can't coach it better. That's a clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets out of traffic, he sees his target, and then he just attacked it. And he tackled right through him, and it was a perfect tackle.
That guy, they didn't get any yards on him.
Yeah.
I mean, he tackled through that player. So, yeah, he was. I was so surprised he went so late in the draft, though.
Oh, me too. And like I said,
they called him the eraser, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And I will always say almost any of these Buckeyes should have been Brown. And I'm sure there was somewhere that they should have been
Brown. Yeah.
For a lot of these guys, there's somewhere that they could have. He was sixth round. So how many picks are in there for the Browns that he could have been?
To the Browns' credit, or not, they lost a lot of secondary help after the draft. So they tried to beef up their secondary, but I think what we're going to get to here in a couple, maybe even the next players, are why the Browns should have taken Jordan Fuller.
Yeah, so I got one more before that. So not a huge stat line for him, but he had a huge interception. And, Cam Hayward, the dude's been in the league forever. He just got another big contract.
First NFL interception, though, which, that's not surprising because he's a big guy. He's a defensive tackle. But, man, that's another one. Like, when you're talking about guys playing the NFL for a decade and still playing at a high level,
and
good for him.
Still there. He's still holding down the fort on their defensive line.
Now, Cam Hayward, he was a first-round draft pick, if I'm not mistaken, right? Steelers took him in the first round. Don't you think, though, like the history of Ohio State, maybe it was just because it was that weird time, like it was towards the end of Trestle's career. Don't you think he's kind of like, I don't want to say slept on, but, and everyone has recency bias, but don't you think, like, Cam Hayward doesn't always get the respect when you're talking about the greats in Ohio State history like other people do?
I would agree with that, and I think the problem is, again, the recency bias. We've recruited now. We've had so many top-level recruits in the last, since Urban's come in from, and I know he didn't live up to his hype, but from Noah Spence all the way to Chase Young, we've had a lot of big-time defensive ends come into the program, and, and now you still got a couple guys. Now
starting to get tackles now too.
With Harrison, you get some tackles coming in. They've gotten some. They've because of Larry Johnson, because of just how they recruit. They're recruiting defense line on all different level. Cam Hayward, I still remember when
Vernon Golston.
Yeah, but it's Jake Long, right? Michigan.
Who he beats?
Yeah.
Yes.
But Golston gets to the sack first. Golston's coming from the other end.
Yes.
Jake Long, he's a first-round draft pick.
Who's the quarterback for Michigan?
Tenney.
Chad Henne?
Yeah.
Okay. That's 2007, right?
Yeah.
Is that Cam's freshman year?
Yeah.
Okay.
He literally, and Golston gets the sack because Golston is coming from the other side, but he backs Jake Long all the way into Henne. And I mean, it was the greatest thing in the world, and I'm just like, that dude's a beast, and like
Vernon Golson, that's the other side of the coin right there. That's a guy that I thought was can't miss.
yeah. So I mean, I always love. I mean, again, it's one of those things. I hate that he plays for the Steelers, but I've always loved Cam Hayward.
No, he was such a monster with Ohio State. He's been so good in the NFL. I mean, like they just re-signed him.
He's a guy. You know what you're getting from him, and he holds down the fort. He's nasty.
Yeah.
I mean.
I think he's a little underrated when you talk about the history of Ohio State defensive linemen. It's probably recency bias because you've had so many good ends.
He doesn't get mentioned a lot though because he's a perfect Steeler.
I agree.
He's that guy.
I know what you're saying. I agree. He is the perfect Steeler. That he's not that flashy guy. He doesn't stand out. He does his job, and he does it so well that you expect that from him.
Yeah. So. We're going to move a little bit into week 2 just because we watched the Cincinnati-Cleveland game last night. Big win for the Browns. Before we get into our honorary Buckeye, because he was a Buckeye, Denzel Ward had a phenomenal game last night.
Denzel Ward still proves that he's a top-end NFL cornerback.
He had 3 tackles.
So many of them from Kerry Combs are.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, he had 3 tackles, 2 solo, 3 pass deflections, but I mean, he might be the best out of that whole bunch. I mean, he was there on every time the ball went to the receiver that he was there. And he was pasted on those guys.
What bunch? You're saying Kerry Combs bunch?
The Kerry Combs bunch.
I mean, Lattimore, you only got 1 year.
No. Fair.
And Lattimore's proved it himself in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I watch Browns games more than other things, but I do watch a lot of NFL games. And Denzel, I mean, you can't get him off of players. You don't beat him off the line.
No. He is a special player, that's for sure. He's a great quarterback.
He turns his head at the right moment. He knows how to read the eyeballs. Right. I mean, he's just literally the perfect corner.
You can't go wrong with him or Lattimore. I'm not saying Lattimore's better than him. It's comparable. But you're talking about like if you're throwing in like Apples and Conley's there, Denzel Ward is better than them. I think he's a level higher than those guys for sure.
Those are definitely the 2 best. I think Okudah will be joining that group here.
I think Okudah has the tools to be the best out of all of them.
Yeah.
He has the tools to be like the next Shaun Springs.
And like, I watched the game last night with our father. Me and him were talking about, he was like, when Denzel got drafted number 4, because I remember him talking to me, he's like, he thought that was kind of crazy. He's like, because you never heard his name, and I'm like, and then you realize why you didn't hear his name.
That means when you don't hear their names, that means they're amazing.
And he was he was great at Ohio State.
He was a little under the radar, though. I mean, I thought number 4 was a little high for him, but I just think he was one that flew under the radar. I think when Jeffrey Okudah did it last year, so many people recognized that in the national media. Maybe it was just because Ohio State was undefeated, so he got more publicity for it. But Denzel Ward, it was the same way. Nobody beat him, and he got same stuff. Maybe it's because he sat out that last bowl game. I don't know what it was, but I think Denzel Ward definitely, he was under the radar, but. Yeah, that's exactly right. You didn't hear his name in college, so that meant he was a good one.
Yeah. Now, Joe Burrow, yes, he graduated from LSU. I'm not going to...
Ohio State.
But
holds a degree from Ohio State.
I'm not going to be one of those Buckeye fans. We're still claiming
I don't claim Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow made his success at LSU. He became the quarterback he is at LSU. He did have a little bit, tutelage from Ryan Day beforehand, though.
Yeah. So, they throw it too many times with him, 61 passes. He went 37 of 61. Dude had 3 touchdowns, 316 yards. He had 2 great drives in the 4th quarter. And, I know this is a Buckeye channel, but, Baker definitely needs to keep progressing because what I saw from Joe Burrow last night is Joe Burrow is going to be in the NFL for a long time.
Joe Burrow will be a legit top 3 NFL quarterback.
And I want Baker to be included in this list, so he needs to keep progressing. As a Browns fan now, just as a football fan, the AFC between Mahomes, Lamar, to Shaun, and now I think Burrow's going to be in that group. And I mean,
Burrow might be the best out of them.
Talk about 4 great young quarterbacks.
You know, so I think Joe Burrow has the makeup to be, like I said, top 3 NFL quarterback. I mean, that guy, on a short week, he's a rookie, and I'm stealing some of this from Colin Cowherd, so I didn't say all this on my own, but, you know, he's a rookie, short week, he had no training camp, and he goes out there and plays a game like that. Like, that wasn't throwing the ball 61 times and you don't throw a single interception. Like, that's how good he was. So, I believe he's a top 3 NFL quarterback. I think it's written all over him. That guy's ready, and he has that moxie when he's on the field. You know who scares me more, though? Lamar Jackson. What I saw in week 1, that dude was terrifying. Because what I remember of Lamar Jackson was an athlete that could run all over people. He didn't even attempt to run the ball against the Browns. That guy was looking downfield. He was letting his legs keep him alive in the pocket. And then if he still has those God-given gifts, his speed, that he can still burn a defense if he wants to take off. But he was so impressive throwing the ball in week 1.
Yeah.
That scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I'm a Browns fan. That scares me. Those two, they're going to be in that division for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, Joe Burrow is going to be. What I saw last night, even when the Browns capped that game to win that game, when Chubb and Hunt ran right down the field and ran right down their throat. Still, I'm just like, man, Burrow he's going to be a Browns nightmare.
The Browns, they're better than the Bengals. The Browns have a much smaller window, I think, than the Bengals do, though.
Yeah. If the Bengals, I know, to Cincinnati fans, we probably do have a few watching us just because, we do have some Bengals fans.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of Bengals fans that are Buckeye fans, and the one thing I will say to you guys is I hope he doesn't die from the lack of an offensive line. And he was put on his butt a lot last night.
But you run into it a lot with a lot of good quarterbacks. Anymore, a lot of them survive it. So you don't see a lot of number 1 quarterbacks anymore. They get a lot of them get destroyed that first year.
Yeah,
a lot of them do, and you see a lot of times they make it through that.
Yeah. All right, I think we're gonna hold off. Where are we at on time wise? No.
A little over an hour.
All right, so we'll probably call it here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Pac-12, but maybe we'll either do it on the next episode or maybe we'll shoot up a special video just to talk about it. It's just kind of interesting that the minute the Big Ten decides to play now, that the governor of California says, well, there was nothing in our guidelines stopping them from playing, and the governor of Oregon added Oregon and Oregon State to her exempt list, allowing them to play. So
they already hated Larry Scott out there. That poor guy, he just got not that the Big Ten weren't trying to not play, but that poor man got duped. That's probably going to be his job.
Yeah. So it seems like now we might be having all 5 Power 5 conferences.
That's the best for football. I hope they get it. And I know you and I were going back and forth that we didn't know, do they have the time? Can they play October? Big Ten announced this the other day. They can follow the exact same protocol. Just copy them. Just erase their name. Just plagiarize it. Who cares? Just put your name on the top of it.
And if September 30th is your day, and honestly, there's no reason why the Pac-12 can't have being back on the field by the 24th too.
Because Oregon, they deserve the same shot Ohio State does to get to the playoff.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll call it a night there. So again, just want to remind everybody, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our whatever podcast network of your choice. Like our videos, like the podcast, give us good ratings on the podcast networks. Follow us on all the social media feeds. We'll have links down in the show descriptions to get to the rest of our links. We definitely love interacting with people. So any time you want to throw out a little question or whatever, we would like to, we're going to probably start soliciting more from questions because we would like to maybe start as the season get ready to get going. Maybe do a couple questions. Per episode, just
we're gonna go over people's questions, see what they, what their thoughts are, what they want to know about the season. Absolutely.
So, again, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Mike.
I'm John. Thanks for coming out to the Buckeye Bar tonight. OH.
I-O. Well, thank you for watching here, the Buckeye Bar guys, here on the Buckeye Bar Talk network. Please subscribe to the network, and when you get the little notification bell, just hit that. Hit all notifications. That way you will get alerted when all the new episodes come up. Comment, like the show, and we hope to you join our community. Come join our bar.
Like, comment, share. I'm John. That's Mike. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.